Hello, Chick-Ching back with another summary, Halo Ghosts of Onyx. Part 2 actually, which will introduce more characters from previous books like Blue Team, Halsey, and others. Without any more delay, let's begin. We start with 3 teams of the best Gamma Company squads duking it out for top honors, Team Saber, Katana, and Gladius. Saber is composed of Ash, the leader, Mark, the sharpshooter, Olivia, the stealthy assassin, Holly, the reconnaissance, and Dante, the demolitions expert. They work their way around running into traps set by Team Katana. They get out and are able to take one of the katanas down, but then an earthquake starts rumbling close by. Some sort of explosive artillery being used. They quickly realize it can't be part of the exercise and try to get a hold of Kurt or Mendez, but nothing. They are unable to make contact with the other 2 teams. Something was jamming their comms. They see drones flying around destroying bunkers and searching for something. Ash tries one more time to make contact with the other 2 teams, telling them to forget the exercise. There's a new situation to deal with. Kurt and CPO Mendez were 100 meters up in a treehouse, spectating the exercise, and have a feeling something isn't right. The Agincourt, a ship that just dropped off supplies, was trying to see what was going on for them, but it was mostly static. So the Agincourt decided it was going to go into higher orbit and hopefully get a clearer signal. The AI Endless Summer shows up to let Kurt know that he had a message waiting for him, which was odd since the new AI couldn't stand Kurt and his staff, so this was trouble. He opens it up and there's a list of messages. It opens up with Zone 67 being under attack and that he's authorized to take command of all military personnel and defend it at all costs. Non-human attacker identity, possible Covenant vector, but possible non-Covenant vector, with 9 attached files to go with it. The first of which was general facts about the planet. It was habitable without any effort to put into it, but oddly didn't have any tectonic activity while having strong magnetic fields, slightly higher than normal background radiation but still tolerable. The second entry, many quarries had an abundance of granite and quartz, and after further exploration they found limestone from an ancient coral reef. Further investigation found many ancient species of unknown origins, possibly an entire alien phylum found. The third attachment, by order of Rear Admiral Margaret Parangoski, anything pertaining to the planet Onyx is reclassified to top secret, eyes only. They found something. Attachment 4. In Zone 67, they found evidence of more advanced culture with abilities to travel space. Translation of anything is impossible by humans and AI alike, requesting more funding and excavation. No more information regarding the sphere found by beta trainees due to explosion. Attachment 5. New buildings operational with smart AIs functioning as well, and actually were able to translate some simpler hieroglyphics. Other than that, nothing found in technological advancement, more requests for more funding and staff in order to search the extensive ruins. Number 6. Parangoski calls all funding from Onyx Zone 67 away because of rebels fighting in the outer colonies. All files and materials are condensed into a file called King Under the Mountain, the file Halsey gets in First Strike. Small crew of humans and AI can stay to continue excavation. Kurt is unable to finish reading due to explosions near Zone 67. They get down from their tree and make way to the Warthog. Along the way, they discuss what it could be, trying to get in contact with the teams, but no luck. On the way to Camp Curry, the Agincourt exploded in high orbit, creating a temporary small sun. Team Saber was being chased by one of the drones. They split up and Holly is chased to a cliff. Ash follows up from behind and shoots it with his stun rounds, but the shields come up and just deflect everything. So he tries throwing a rock at it, and no shields come up. It smacks into the drone, but just scratching it. He heaves another chunk of rock at hitting the thing dead center in the orb, which basically pisses it off and it chases him instead. Eventually it catches him, and when Ash yells out over team comm that slower projectiles don't trigger the shields, the drone seems to understand. It says something to him in a language that he doesn't understand. And then he tries to say just that. And then it says something else, and he catches the word non sequitur now, which was Latin apparently. Next, it told Ash, security protocol enabled. Ash said he understands, and the drone says, ring, offensive, systemated activated, shielding countdown mode, exchange counter response reclaimer. Ash tried telling it he didn't want to hurt it, but apparently that was the wrong answer. Claimed he was an aboriginal subspecies, neutralized possible infection vector, which Ash understood. Others from Team Saber threw rocks and eventually knocked the drone to the ground, and then flattened it with a large rock, moving toward Camp Curry for real ammunition and explosives. Kurt and Mendez stop a half kilometer outside of the camp and move in on foot, avoiding detection by drones and eventually meeting up with Tom and Lucy. Tom reports 22 drones within the camp, and either everyone is dead or missing. Tom tells them that grenades worked in taking 2 of the drones down, but assault and sniper rounds are deflected by the shield. Team Saber was able to tell them that rocks work, but couldn't get a location from them before comms went silent. Kurt had Mendez and Tom go turn on the generators and get the auxiliary comm on and see if they could punch through the interference. They all gather ammunition and supplies to meet at the El Moro point. Kurt and Lucy went to his house, or at least where he had been staying for the past 20 years. In his home, there were a bunch of photos of Spartan 2 since they had gone public over the past 5 years, but not a single Spartan 3 though, since they had to stay secret. They gather up all the weapons and ammo inside, and Kurt opens up a heavy metal case that has his Mjolnir armor in it. which he hadn't worn since he greeted the Alpha Company trainees. With it, he could be better and stronger in every way, but he feels it would isolate him from the others in the SPI armor. Lucy even points at it, but Kurt says no, that's not what he is anymore. Which just boggles me to this point. It's stupid. Nothing about this makes any sense. The only thing the SPI armor has on Mjolnir is camouflage, which is mostly useless since the drones track them anyways. All he would have to do is tell the other Spartan 3s that him wearing this changes nothing. It's just better than SPI armor, and they would understand. But nah, let's, just be more easily killable. Finally, we see what's going on with our favorite doctor. Halsey and Kelly are in slipspace heading towards Onyx. Halsey realigns the magnetic coils on the slipspace drive, and Kelly is strapped to the first mate's chair so she didn't drift off, with the dermocortic steroids being pumped in to help her heal her burns on her body, along with sedatives to keep her asleep since she wouldn't have come along on her own. Dr. Halsey then starts talking with Jared, a simple AI she had of her own. They went through the mission files from the mission on Halo and files found on Reach, such as King Under the Mountain. It seems that as if they are trying to win a 400 arms race, but the last part of it was S3. It had to be Spartan 3, and it worried her that what shortcuts Ackerson was making. She wanted to try and save the Spartan 3s from what the Spartan 2s could no longer be saved from, fighting a losing battle. Spartan 2s would fight anything no matter the odds. Halsey wakes up 5 hours later and removes the sedative and injects a counter to it, then orders to exit slipspace. Once out, they look for a habitable planet. Kelly wakes up and gets up ready to fight, but Halsey tells her to relax. Kelly knew she was drugged and wants to know why. Halsey tells her that it was because of the steroid injection, which is sort of true, but nothing Kelly couldn't have handled. When she asks about John and Admiral Whitcomb, Halsey assures that they knew, which technically wasn't a lie. Jared tells them that the planet that had been located, and Halsey tells him to head for it. When closer, 314 ships were en route, and attack patterns based on their vector. Halsey out loud says they can't fight, but Kelly doesn't agree and asks for a weapon station. Dr. Halsey tells her there isn't one, but she looks for one anyways, not taking that for an answer. Eventually, Halsey tells her to sit down and wait because in a few minutes she will need her, and she does. Halsey puts in calculations and aims for a particular trajectory, knowing that she may not survive the acceleration, but for sure won't stay conscious. She will need Kelly to take over at that point. When she passes out, she tells her to find the others. Kelly asks who, but she doesn't get an answer. Kelly takes over and checks Dr. Halsey's pulse, still beating, but without pressure suit, it was too much. She's frustrated by the situation, not knowing what's going on and not having a way to fight. She figures out that only 147 ships are chasing them and they make a planetary insertion. She hears some audio on the E-band, an automated general distress code that cuts out before finishing. But Kelly recognizes the voice. It was Mendez. Kelly debates jumping to survive, but Halsey didn't have the option, so she stays. After some more stressful piloting, they eventually make it, but escape velocity was impossible due to the damage to the engines, so they were stuck. Halsey had survived and finds 4 MA-5Bs with ammo in the duffel bag. Kelly has Jared get them to a location of the last transmission, which was 17 kilometers away. Turns out it was a UNSC military camp, and there were 12 more ships similar to the ones that attacked him already there. So they decided to park 5 kilometers to the west, where they found a small clearing in the jungle and landed. When leaving, she made sure to grab the AI, who definitely didn't want to be left behind, knowing that Halsey would probably want it, and grabs the duffel bags. Once out and making sure everything is clear, she sees 2 figures moving around in active camouflage. She knew ODSTs had experimented with it, but never used it in actual combat. She then notices hand signals, so they have to be human, and gestured them to come forward. She hears another flanking her, and when it moved toward her, she is able to juke to the side, sidestep, and grab the arm and twist. However, it was countered, which was odd, since if it was a normal human, the arm would have been ripped off. Kelly is still faster, and was able to throw an open palm jab into the chest, and whoever it was went flying into a tree. Turns out it was Olivia. Kurt comes out and tells her to stand down. Kelly recognizes his voice, but there's no time to explain the situation, and more drones inbound. Kelly wanted to figure out what exactly was going on, but had to deal with these hostiles first. When trying to shoot them, shields came up and it attacked her. She avoids getting lasered and is covered by the Spartan 3s. Not knowing what they are yet, she still thinks it's suicide for them to help because they are not like her, for all she knows at the moment. 2 of the drones are taken out by Lotus anti-tank mines, and the last one was out of range, so Kelly decided to take it out for herself, realizing possibly how the shields work, and she jumps onto it and starts punching the crap out of it. The drone starts to explode, but Kelly jumps away and diverts energy to her shields and is launched into a tree and falls to the floor. Kelly gets up and 3 more stealth figures walk toward her. Kurt appears and welcomes her and shows her his face. She asks what's going on, but he can't explain now, since the drones are hunting in 3s. More are on the way because of an Overwatch drone tracking their position. However, he does end up telling her that the Team Saber are Spartans. Halsey wakes up and looks around, seeing Chief Mendez and 7 others sitting in another corner. She knew that they had to be the Spartan 3s because they barely looked over 12 years old. Kelly asks how she's doing, and apparently she's fine. Mendez tells her he can fill her in on what's going on if she's up to it because of the re-entry and whatnot, but instead she decides to make some educated guesses of her own. She assumes that Mendez was recruited by Ackerson to train the Spartan 3s. Correct. Pointing to the youngest Spartans nearby. She continues with the bunker that they are in. Had to have been attacked by drones recently, which Holly asks what they are. Halsey explains that they are Sentinels, built by the Forerunners, and are more capable of destruction than even the Covenant. She puts her attention on Kurt. She recognizes her work, and states that he's a Spartan too. But if all the Spartans labeled MIA, she knows which ones actually are. And because of Kurt's personality being something you'd want in a trainer, she assumes it's him. Kurt lifts his faceplate and smiles at her. She tells him that they need to get a message to Fleet Comm, but the comm options are meh at the moment, because, especially since the Agincourt was destroyed. And because they can combine to become much stronger, it was easily able to take out the UNSC ship. Kurt explains that there is an option for comms and breaks secrecy to explain it. But first, he explains that Sentinels are not here looking for something but had always been there. So more likely defending, since he thinks that they activated him in the first place. But Halsey starts putting things together and realizes it was actually the activation of the first Halo ring that activated the Sentinels here. So they need to get to the only place left in order to send a message, but that's down in Zone 67. With what they have right now, it would be wise to go. Halsey wonders where the other Spartans are, and turns out Team Gladius was found dead, and Team Katana was pushed down into Zone 67 and hadn't had contact with them since. The second thing was the Slipspace Comm probe launcher, which is in Zone 67 as well. They had to get down there somehow. But inscribed in the wall was something that could prove useful, an optical comm port. She connects her laptop and tries communicating with Endless Summer. Unfortunately, a direct hack would basically be impossible with the tools she has, so instead, she gets its attention by talking about the transcendence of existentialism because AIs were addicted to the idea. And Endless Summer takes her bait and they communicate, discussing the Sentinels and the Slipspace probe, wanting to send a message to Earth. The AI tells her that they basically have one chance to send a message, because once sent, the Sentinels would find the location and destroy it. So Halsey types out a message and gets ready to send it. She gives Endless Summer all the information she knows on the Forerunners because he deserves to know. They also find out that Onyx was actually a shield world after translating some of the symbols, which further connects the planet to the Halo rings. The AI sends the message, but a message bounced back to them from Slipspace. Impossible for anything the UNSC has technologically wise. But Cortana on board the UNSC Amberclad uses technology from the Covenant ship to send a message, alerting of both Bandersnatch and Hydra. Bandersnatch corresponds to radiological or energy-based disaster. The Hydra corresponds to biological weapons, so the Covenant and Flood. The message continues. They had followed the Covenant from New Mombasa to a new location, the Ark, where a new Halo was being created. Flood was there as well, trying to escape, suggesting taking out the Covenant vessel and Nova bombing the Delta Halo. A message ends after that, and they attach their message to the carrier wave for it to get to Earth. The Matrix collapsed after sending, so no verification was possible. They just had to hope that at this point it went through. Finally, a new perspective arrives. Commander Richard Lash aboard the UNSC Prowler Dusk was following the UNSC Amberclad through Slipspace along with the Solemn Penance to the Ark. When they drop from Slipspace, they find themselves witnessing a start of the Covenant Civil War, or the Great Schism as it will be better known as. Then we see from Major Voro Montecri, who had just assassinated his commander Tano, because he wanted to get the entire ship infected by the Flood, thinking it was some sort of religious purification. The rest of the crew knew the decision was a good one because of the insanity that overcame Tano. The Magellanic Golo pair that was supposed to protect him was another story, or so he thought it might be until they came to understand that his decision and were ready to back him up. And that was all good though. Two brute frigates had targeted the Incorruptible, his ship, and were launching plasma at him and disabled his shields, but he dipped behind another ally ship. Once past the ship, he launches his salvos at the first Yerlhane cruiser, destroying it, and then vented plasma into the cannons to make it look like he was prepped for another shot. At this point, the other brute ship retreats at the appearance of more power. Then they start clearing out ships infested with Flood, and by clearing, I mean destroying. Once they were done with the Flood, the truce was over, and the brutes and elites went back to fighting again. However, to Voro, this was madness to stay and fight, so they enter Slipspace and leave the system. And without further ado, Blue Team! Fred, Will, and Linda took on the defense of Earth, taking out many Covenant ships on zero-G ops. But now they were flying on a Pelican, hearing about the Hammerclad chasing through a portal after the Covenant. But they couldn't worry about that. They had to look at the defense of Earth, one thing at a time. They make a hot drop to deal with the nukes that brutes were seeming to want to leave with. And there was a Covenant Scarab platform attacking nearby as well. Fred has Linda snipe brutes along the path to the Scarab, while Will goes and gets in a gasoline tanker and drives it into the attack platform. Fred, in the meantime, works his way to the elevators, killing a brute with an assault rifle before picking up the brute grenade launcher. While sprinting toward the nukes, a giant fireball appears under one of the Scarab's legs, causing it to crash and be destroyed. Will flashed a green light that he had accomplished his part. Fred fires 2 grenades into the elevator and dives in as the doors are shut, then kills 2 of the brutes as he's knocked to the ground, and shields dropped. The 3rd brute lifts off the dead ally and points a grenade launcher at Fred, but before he's able to fire, Linda drops it with 2 shots into its skull. They then climb up into the elevator and get ready to contact FleetCom for extraction. Then Admiral Hood contacts them, tells them that they will have a Prowler come pick them up, and that there is a new mission from Dr. Halsey. She had found Forerunner technology on a planet that could be used to fight the Flood and Covenant, sent Spartans. Fred tells Admiral that they are ready for deployment, but it would take 3 weeks to get there on the fastest UNSC ship. So instead, Fred has another idea, but he will need the codes for the Fenris nuclear warheads to do it. They make their way onto a Covenant ship and clear out the shuttle bay of Kigyar and Ungoy. Linda defused the warheads, and then they started to take over the ship. Knowing the layout and having the element of surprise, it could work. They had finally taken over the ship, but another destroyer was heading their way, so they armed 6 warheads and send it on a shuttle towards it. They initiate a slipspace jump and successfully make it. They reminisce for a bit, then their ship starts heading back into normal space after seeing translations on his datapad of symbols from the terminal on the ship. It read quite broken up, bloodied spirit automated, ... systems activated, ... to battle, ... sounded, ... heed the call to war, ... warning, ... subspace anomaly, ... dimension, ... YED-4 detected, ... cause singularity, aftermath, and that's where it cuts out. Turns out they are being pulled from slip space to help in a battle against the lesser races, quote unquote. A hologram of a brute showed up, but after seeing Fred, it vanishes, and ships start heading towards them. Will gets another slipspace jump prepped, and they dip out before not taking too much damage from brutes in the system. While going through slipspace though, the Covenant ship is burning on the outside, but nothing that's too stressing for the time being. However, the problem was that they realized that the ship was pulled out of slipspace and received a message from normal space while in slipspace. Realizing that the Covenant could have heard Cortana's message, which means they know everything. Blue Team shows up in system with Onyx and finds the planet quite quickly. Once closer, they get a message over the E-band, but it's OSO, with 27 and 118 OSO units between the warning. Not sure what entirely that means, but just bear with me. They take it as longitude and latitude, and when they get closer to the surface, they see a couple thousand 3-meter long ships heading towards them ready to attack. Shields are up, but unfortunately they have plenty of firepower. So Blue Team dips out of the ship on a dropship as the Bloodied Spirit crashes into the ground, sending her from re-entry and previous damage, and it is completely destroyed on impact with the ground. Once on foot away from the dropship, they come to a halt, and Kelly whispered, "Ollie ollie oxen free." And this is where we will leave off with part 2 of Halo Ghosts of Onyx. Almost everyone is on Onyx for the finale to come. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. Any questions or comments, leave it down below, and I'll do my best to answer and respond. Part 3 will be next, and the link is down below. Till next time, Chick Chang out.